In the midst of rising tensions with the country of Russia, President Obama is reminding Europe of U.S. plans to cut the military spending, saying, quote, as we have told our European allies many times, we want to see more European nations meeting their commitments when it comes to defense spending. In the United States, after 2 wars, we are moving toward a leaner military, he said a couple of days ago.
And some veterans now voicing out about the president's foreign policy. Listen.
This is what weak foreign policy gets you. Al-Qaeda is back in Anbar province. Iraq is a less safe country than it was before we left it. It makes me feel like the sacrifices that I made and my friends made are completely in vain.
End of the war in Iraq.
Well, CEO of Concerned Veterans for America and Fox News contributor Pete Hegseth joins us now. Good morning to you, Pete.
Good morning.
Well, President Obama also said that Vladimir Putin took Crimea out of weakness.
Out of weakness.
Do you see it that way?
Well, he's got his own domestic problems. There's no doubt about it, and he's bluffing a better hand than he actually has. They've got problems, but he's acting the way he's acting because he believes he's got the space geopolitically to do it. Romney talked about it.
Sure.
He was right, and because of our equivocation, our red lines that we don't enforce, it's really basic. I mean, he's seeing this opportunity and seizing it, and our weakness, our lack of leadership, it is dangerous and invites volatility in that region.
Well, one of the troubling things is the fact that while the president is overseas and he's talking about, you know, what's going on in Russia and nuclear scariness and stuff like that, he's reminding the Russians, while you are being aggressive, don't worry about us because we're cutting back on our military.
Yeah, I'm here to reassure our NATO allies, the Baltic states and others, that we're here for them with our bigger, better, leaner military, which is nothing but code for gutting. While President Putin reinstates a Soviet-era physical fitness program where he's bolstering his entire population, I mean, the optics could not be worse. And it's so discouraging to watch a commander-in-chief go, well, we've been through 2 difficult wars, so now it's time for this leaner military. History's over, and we just hope Russia doesn't try anything else.
All right, we asked American people, you know, they did a study, and they cutting the number of troops in the Army, in the military, reducing military spending. 36% of the country is in favor of it. Almost 60% are opposed to those cuts. Let alone people like you who actually fight in these wars, don't just talk about the wars. Pete, when you heard that soldier talk leading into this segment about, I feel as though essentially he feels like he's been betrayed. For a guy who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, do you feel the same way?
People get it. Yeah, that's the difference between finishing a war and ending it. What he was talking about is Fallujah and Anbar province, which we fought so valiantly for, and now because we were so desperate to get out of there as soon as possible, Al-Qaeda's taken it over. That's not sound foreign policy. That's a good campaign line about ending wars and has nothing to do with the strength and vitality of the United States and our national security. It's not about staying in Iraq and Afghanistan forever. Nobody wants that. But if you're not responsible about following through on your obligations, the world pays attention and your enemies are emboldened. We saw that with Al-Qaeda in Iraq today. You're seeing that with Putin right now.
And yesterday, Pete, you testified before the House Veterans Affairs, and you basically are saying that a lot of Americans are feeling like second-class citizens in their very own system. Let's take a listen to what you had to say.
It's time for accountability. It's time for transparency. And it's time for results. The key question before this committee and this Congress is simple. Who will you stand with? Underperforming bureaucrats who can't be fired, or veterans who are being underserved? The answer to that question is crystal clear.
Pete, will this make a difference?
I think so. We're working with great legislators on the Hill who are advancing a VA Management Accountability Act that will finally allow the VA Secretary to fire bad managers. No one's been fired at VA for all the problems we've talked about on this show a lot. This would empower them to actually be fired, to create accountability so we start getting actual results for veterans, which is what we all want.
Like everybody else in this country. When you don't do a good job, you're out of there. Thanks, Pete.
You should be. Thank you.
All right. Pete Hegseth, when he's not on TV, he's testifying on Capitol Hill.
Or fighting in wars. He's still active.
He's very active.